Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. A ton going on in the NBA, and we got to start things off. Keith, I don't even know if you've got it fired up just yet, but if you do, we're definitely going to be in need of a Simmons siren.
We will be
Okay.
in a minute, but welcome back. Safe travels to you. Glad to see you
Thank you.
back. We took a few days off. Trevor was doing a little bit
Yep.
of traveling, a little bit of work going on too within that. So I'm happy you're back safe, and we get to
Well,
do it. So here we go.
let's do it.
Let's go.
There it is.
There it is, the Simmons siren.
Oh, boy.
We know we only play it when there's actual real
And that
news,
there
and
is.
feels like there was some real news around
Here's
Ben
what gets me.
Simmons.
So Shams Charania comes out with this article, and we've got a ton of things that we'll talk about from it. And he goes through the whole thing about how the 76ers want more intel on what's going on with his meetings in terms of mental health and all that kind of stuff. He's meeting with a therapist to discuss all these things, and the 76ers just want more info from it. And Shams is going into detail explaining how they're not getting what they want, and Simmons says he's mentally not ready to play. All kind of stuff that we knew was going to be happening. And then at the very end, he throws in, it's almost like an afterthought. Oh, and by the way, the Boston Celtics are interested in trading for Ben Simmons, and it would have to involve Jalen Brown. And I went, whoa, that's a heck of a way to end that section, to just casually toss that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Here's my here's my thought for that. You ready?
Yep.
To go. Let's see. Oh man, no, never mind. It didn't do what I wanted it to do. Ah, bummer. Oh well. Another time. I was gonna play a really loud buzzer because I'm out on that. I will also say Celtics people have pushed back very hard that there is nothing going on there. So we always talk about this all the time. Whenever anything like this comes out, who does it benefit for this to come out? It feels like about every 2-3 weeks we get another. Phillies had conversations with Team X and asked for all this great stuff, and nothing has happened. So, we'll it's I would be very surprised if that's the way the directions the Celtics went, because the Celtics certainly do not need to get rid of shooting that they have. Jalen Brown is very much developed into a quality shooter now. To add another non-shooter, now you could never play Simmons and Schroeder, Simmons and Smart. Never mind Simmons, Smart, and Schroeder together. You'd never be able to offset the shooting with that. So yeah, it's just going to continue to drag out. This one is, I am sure, here, but when we get real news with it, and then I think you mentioned it while I was playing around looking for stupid sound effects. It's Woj reported. Did you
I did
tag
not.
that part on
yet.
top of it? Okay, yeah. So Woj reported after that Ben Simmons has met with the 76ers team recommended specialist to discuss mental health concerns. The Sixers have started fining him again for missing practices and games. So that was not happening for a while there, because it looked like he was working his way back and doing what was asked. Then, as it seemed like he was not, that went that way. And then Woj reports, I'll just read it. Simmons is planning to continue meeting with his NBPA-provided mental health specialist and working out regularly at the team practice facility. Sources tell ESPN Simmons has yet to play for the Sixers this season, and this is the most important part. There remains no timeline on a possible debut.
We talked about this last time, but if you're the 76ers, publicly, you have to make sure that you are supportive of mental health, because this is a bigger deal, and as it should be, right? It should be more of a normalized thing for people to be able to talk about and stuff like that. But just given the situation, you have to imagine that within the 76ers, there's probably a bit of skepticism. So they want to verify, like, hey, this is a legitimate thing and not just another step in this whole process of eventually parting ways.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's it. Everybody's trying to do their due diligence here, I'm sure. But as we said, there's some level of skepticism from the Philadelphia side on this, and well, what is it? But you can't. We've come too far making progress down that road to go this way, and we can only hope that Ben Simmons is not using this as his outlet, I guess, or whatever we want to call it there.
Yeah, you don't want that to be his alibi or whatever for why he's not there.
Yeah. Yep. Add on
Yes.
to that, Jalen
Oh, yes,
Brown
that's right.
is going to be out 1 to 2 weeks with a strained hamstring. He suffered that. Boston went into Miami and put a real beating on
Hmm.
the Heat, very unexpectedly. On Thursday, Brown left that game early with what they at the time called hamstring tightness, and now they, as he get back to Boston, he has been reevaluated, and now they're saying he is going to be out for 1 to 2 weeks. So hamstring injuries can be a little tricky. We never really know how long they're going to stick
Yeah.
around here. So we'll see.
The Cavs, according to Shams, are interested in a long-term deal with Collin Sexton. Sexton was looking for 4 years,
Yep.
$100 million, but now we've got some unfortunate news on Collin Sexton
Yeah.
regarding a torn meniscus. That's not good.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times when the torn meniscus news comes out and it comes out with no timeline added to it, it's because there's a couple different things that happen with the meniscus. Either they do like it's basically like they cut
Right.
part of it and shave it, and that one comes with
Shorter time
with
frame.
a one with a
Yeah.
shorter time frame to return, and then or they take it and do the full surgery, and then you're usually out. Either way, we're probably not going to see Collin Sexton for a good
Mhm.
long time, and we may not see him play again this year.
I mean, if I'm like, obviously, this is terrible. This is not good news. But if I'm Collin Sexton, if I'm any athlete at this point, and I'm at his age, to me, you do the one that might take a little longer to heal, but is more certain to make sure you're going to have stability moving forward. If he was a veteran and he knows this is probably his last year and they're close to a playoff run or something, then okay, I can understand, doing the one where they just shave the meniscus a little bit. But in
Yep.
my mind, I mean, you've got your whole career to look at, and the Cavs, as they've been a lot better than we expected them to be this season. But that doesn't mean that they were preparing for a finals run or anything like that. I
No,
think
yeah.
you got to be cautious with this, and we'll see.
Yep.
I'm sure his doctors are probably telling him the same thing. But I mean, if I'm him, I'm protecting the future as much as I can.
Yeah, the tough part here, well, a couple things. So let's talk about it from Sexton's
Yeah.
point. Is did not get that contract extension. Sounds like the sticking point was over a fifth year in the deal. The Cavs wanted a full 5 year deal, and Sexton did not want to go there. So understandable why,
Mm-hmm.
right? He wants to get back on the market again earlier. The other thing is this is hard because he's you and I both have a similar opinion of thinking he's a fairly good
Yep.
player. He's actually a somewhat efficient scorer. Usually this year he's not hit as well from 3 point land as he had over the last couple of seasons, but he put up scoring numbers without just being a chucker. But that reputation still sticks with him of just how good is
Right.
this guy. And now he's going to lose out on an opportunity to prove that, especially an opportunity where his team is now playing better. It might have been playing meaningful games for the first time in his career. So that's really tough. From the Cavs' point of view, they're still down Isaac
Mm-hmm.
Okoro. He's still out. Love and Markkanen are both out with COVID protocols. They'll return eventually, we know, and Okoro should hopefully be back sooner rather than later. But they are weak at that
Yep.
two guard spot. I mean, I'm very curious to see what they do in the next game. Do they go even bigger and play like someone like Jetty Osman there, and really, now you're gonna go, 2 7-footers or 6'10" guy and a 6'9" guy in your starting
Super
five
size.
alongside Darius Garland, right?
Forget
Or
small ball.
is this, yeah, right? Does Dylan Windler have to finally get run here for the first significant run of
Mm-hmm.
his NBA career? Do you play Rubio and Garland together and move Garland back off the ball like he was early in his career? There's not a lot of easy answers here. Maybe Denzel Valentine can work his way into the rotation. He's another guy's 6'6" wing size player, but that's a spot where they don't have a ton of depth. So it's something to keep an eye on here moving forward. It'll shake out probably over the next
Be
couple of
interesting to
weeks.
see how the Cavs handle it, and of course, hopefully, Collin Sexton does heal up completely and can come back to being his full self, even if it's not this season. On the positive side,
Yep.
TJ Warren looks like he's going to be ready to make his debut sometime in January or perhaps even December out of the walking boot. This guy was incredible back in the bubble, and it seems like he's just been hurt since, but would love to see him back out there and thriving.
Yeah.
The Pacers could certainly use him on the wing.
Yeah, and he unlocks some small ball lineups
when they
for
put him
them.
at 4.
Or I guess they're not even really. They're not even really necessarily small ball lineups. They're more normal lineups nowadays because them playing Sabonis and Turner together a lot. But yeah, if he can get back in there, that does do things because Duarte, Levert, that's not really their game. They're them sliding up to the 3 is as far up as you're going to play them a position. So Warren getting back in there, that really helps. But that Pacers team, Malcolm Brogdon's back out again. They just incredibly banged up for second year in a row, and we don't really have a good read on how good this team is, and more importantly, for a team that has some contract and roster decisions to make in the next year or so. We don't know how good these guys are together because we never really saw Levert play with these guys last year. Now Brogdon's out, Warren's out now, Sabonis and Turner. That's probably more than things standing wise this year. I mean, that's not important, but they've got to get some evaluation in on just how these guys fit together long term.
Yeah, I mean, because realistically, you're talking about potentially decisions that involve tens of millions of dollars, right? You've got to have as much data as you can get if you're going to make decisions like that. And if these guys simply aren't ever on the floor together, I mean, that gives you data in and of itself. Okay, we've got some injury-prone guys. Do we want to really pay up for that type of situation? But let's say the second half of the season, they're healthy, they get together, and suddenly you've got dynamite. Everything's working great. That would be important information to have moving forward, that, hey, we know when they're on the floor together, they can click, or they don't, and you go the other way. So it is important for the Pacers that they get out there, even if it doesn't mean a deep playoff run this year. Although, I mean, it's still so early. Can't count anything out.
Sure. Yeah. No, without a doubt. Yeah. You get Warren back. You've got more than enough time to get into the playoff run. I don't think we put it in the rundown, but we should just make sure we do cover it. And I only noticed it because I was looking at a depth chart thing. Pascal Siakam returned for the Raptors yesterday. Or yesterday, Saturday. I don't know. It's all running together. But over the weekend, I
was promoting our new Showtime logger for Lakers Nation. So I was promoting a beer all weekend. So my weekend really has run together. I'll tell you that.
All right, perfect. So we'll just refer to things that happened from Friday on over the weekend. So Pascal Siakam returned right into the starting 5. They started what's maybe one of the more interesting and good defensive groups in the NBA. Siakam, Anunoby, Barnes, Trent, and Van Vliet. That's a group that can really get after it and cause you some problems. And Siakam looked pretty good physically. He's a little rusty. His timing was off a little bit, but that's to be expected. But yeah, Toronto's played well so far, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't know if you caught Kevin Durant's comments on Scotty Barnes, but he said, what's that guy? 19, 20? Sheesh. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, that's, if you're Scotty Barnes, man, that's going to make you feel like top of the world, right? If Kevin Durant's complimenting you like that.
Absolutely. To get that kind of praise from KD, and especially, I mean, people have been really taking notice of Scotty Barnes, especially defensively, the potential he's got there. I'm seeing a lot of people around the NBA that are saying this guy could, at some point, be looking at all defensive team, maybe defensive player of the year type player.
Yeah, and if he keeps playing the way he is, he's going to be right there for Rookie of the Year, especially since of the guys who are probably the best candidates, him and Evan Mobley right now look like the most likely guys to be on potential playoff teams. So yeah, he's right up there.
Let's talk about the Blazers. So we've already, on the heels of the Robert Sarver situation, which is what we discussed on our last show before the blur of a weekend, the Blazers have announced that, and owner Jody Allen have announced that they've begun an investigation into President of Basketball Operations Neil Oshea for alleged workplace misconduct. Now, this obviously a bit different than the Sarver thing, because the Sarver thing came about from a reporter from ESPN looking into this and then telling the story and that getting out there, and that caused the Suns to respond. This is the Blazers getting out and them kind of controlling the story to a degree. They're the one that announced that, hey, we are looking into this and we're investigating, and so we'll have to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction, because this is Portland got complaints from within the organization from people who then said, all right, we need to look deeper into this. And then Chris Haynes I believe he did a podcast with Dan Dickau. I don't think it was just an article. I apologize. I'm trying to find it now and I can't find the tweet. But it's on Chris Haynes's timeline if I can't find it here in the next minute or two. But anyway, he did that, and Dickow talked extensively about his issues that he had with
Neil Oshea.
Neil Oshea as well. So it's yeah, there it is right here. Former Blazers player / coach Dan Dickow speaks out on Neil Oshea, detailing experience being cursed out, humiliated, and gaslighted. Dickow also reveals common knowledge. Former GM Chad Buchanan, the one who zeroed in on Damian Lillard pre-draft, because that has been a thing where Neil Oshea has kind of always said, like, "Hey, I found Damian Lillard," and that's been like his
claim to fame.
His things here. Yeah. So that's been one of those things that we gotta kind of keep an eye on here moving forward. But yeah, it's I mean, I guess we're gonna find out how much all of this is true and whatnot. But the reality is, don't treat people poorly. Like, it's I mean, it kind of seems simple, but yeah,
be good. Just be good. That's it.
Yep.
The Wizards, Rui Hachimura has resumed being around the team and is expected to be reintegrated fully in the next 2 weeks. So they're going to give him a little bit of time. He was out due to personal reasons, missed training camp. They're going to give him some time to ramp up, which is smart, both from a mental and physical aspect. Give him that time to ramp him up and then get him going big wing that can provide a lot on both ends of the floor. So that will be a boost to them. And they're also hoping that Thomas Bryant can get back from ACL rehab before January. So December for Thomas Bryant, who's been a nice find for them, coming off of being released by the Lakers, as I remember very vividly.
Yeah, couple good big man finds for them with Thomas Bryant, Daniel Gafford last year, who they picked up from the Bulls. He really took off. And then another former Laker, Montrezl Harrell, playing out of his mind to open this season. Looks I was gonna say looks like he did with the Clippers, but he's been even better than he was with the Clippers. Like, he's been great. Yeah, the Hachimura situation is odd. There hasn't been a lot of details on what went on here that caused him to miss. It's they've said personal reasons, but usually when it's been this long, we have some sense of what went on. But he also, there was reporting out of the Washington media that he had been back, but working out on his own and hadn't been working out with the team and those kind of things. So don't exactly know what's going on with that one. But yeah, it's a, odd situation. But what's going to be the thing to monitor there in Washington is, how does he crack the rotation now? Because you've got Kuzma playing well as the starting four. You've got Harrell, basically eating up all the other minutes there. Caldwell Pope holding down the starting 3 spot. Denny Avdia is kind of the backup for both Kuzma and Caldwell Pope. And then when Bertans has been out recently with an injury, but when he gets back, he's kind of the other guy in the mix there. So I'm just not sure how easy it's going to be for Hachimura to force his way back into the rotation, because he's not somebody who can slide down and play the 2 at all. So it'll probably take care of itself. Someone else will probably be out at some point, but it's just that's the thing I'll be watching for. When and if they do have everybody healthy, how does Hachimura get himself back into the rotation regularly?
And remember what we always say: you can never have too much wing depth in today's NBA. So, like you said, I think it will work itself out, because you're going to need other wings at some point, even if he's not being put right back into the starting lineup.
Speaking of, perfect segue, my friend, wing depth. Your team is struggling with some wing depth right now. I know you've talked about it at length, but on this show we had not had a chance to talk about it. LeBron James is out. The initial was kind of seemed like day to day, but probably more of maybe like a week. But then there was a reporting that came out. I think Bill Oram had it, if I remember correctly, that said this could be a months long injury, right? So let's see. I've seen a lot of countering to that with some of the I'm going to call them, I'm doing air quotes around Twitter doctors, but these are not like the oh man, I saw him go down. That's a torn ACL. His career is over. Like reactions you see from people who have the same medical training as you and I do. This is more the people who they're actual doctors that have been active
Yeah.
on Twitter, saying, it's usually not that serious of a thing. So I guess it's just, let's see, right? Because we don't know, where
So
it is.
the Tim DeFrancesco is who Bill Oram had spoken to, a former trainer, and he said that this can be a months thing, 1 to 2 months type thing. But the Lakers it came out earlier today. Lakers trainer Marco Nunez was asked about it and said, "Well, it depends on the grade of the strain, right?" And the Lakers aren't saying
Sure.
what grade it is, but said if it's a really bad one, then sure, it could be like 6 weeks. But if it's a more minimal one,
Yeah.
then it could be a week or two. It just depends on how bad of a strain it is, which is pretty much the same with most strains, right? The grade of it is ultimately what's going to determine how long the player is out for. The
Yep.
initial reporting coming out from Shams was that it would be about a week, at least a week, they estimated. But I'll also say the Lakers have a history over the last few years of underestimating how long it's going to take for somebody to come back from injury. And a lot of times it's when people are saying, what do you mean he's going to be back in 4 weeks? That injury takes like 6 to 8 to heal. Then lo and behold, it's 6 to 8. And then when 4 weeks pass, people are annoyed, which begs the question, why do they do that? And we still don't know why they tend to do that. But just given that
Yeah.
they've got a history of underestimating injuries and how long it will take for somebody to return, maybe it will be longer than a week. We'll see. They've also shown that they're going to be very conservative with any injury to any of their star players. So we'll see what winds up happening. But you're right. The Lakers are definitely hurting on the wing. No Talen Horton-Tucker, no Trevor Ariza, no LeBron James. Anthony Davis dealing with that thumb strain, although he is probable to play tonight. It's been a lot of, hey, we've got one or two bigs that can play and a bunch of guards, and figure it out.
Yeah, and it's I'm trying not to go crazy here with like, oh my gosh, you can't afford to play it safe, because you're better off playing it safe than bringing LeBron back, and then you really do lose him for months. But there's now there's 3.5 games spread between them and the Warriors at the top of the conference. That's not too much to make up, obviously, by any means, but it's just we're now seeing in the West. Maybe even the easy wins you thought you might pick off from the OKCs of the world, as the Lakers learned, might not be so easy to pick off. Maybe the Pelicans are a little worse than maybe we thought they might be. The Rockets are kind of proven to be what we thought. But yeah, it's some of those easy wins aren't necessarily there this year at the bottom of the conference, and that's going to make it a little bit harder. So it's just that factor that has to factor in at some point, because we've been down this road before with multiple teams. They're like, oh, it's early. And then all of a sudden it's March and it's like, oh crap. Like, even to some extent with the Lakers last year, right? There was a lot of like, oh, they'll be fine. And then they were in the play.
It was the entire year last year was, well, in 2 weeks when this guy comes back, then, okay, no, wait, this guy's hurt. Okay, in 3 weeks when this guy comes back. And then finally we got to the point where all we were saying was, if they can be healthy for the playoffs, and then that didn't happen. So, they can definitely snowball on you. And as I've always said, my big thing, in order to place where you want to in the NBA, it's not about beating the best teams. It's not about, oh, we have to win every game we play against the Warriors, or every game against the Bucks, or whoever it is that you're playing, any of the top teams. It's about beating the teams you're supposed to beat. And the Lakers have already lost a few games to teams, particularly OKC, that they should have won. And when you don't bank those wins now, when you don't notice it that much now, it's in March that it starts to come back to bite you.
Yeah, when you're a game or two out of a better seed or whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And to go back, this was one of the things we called out with the Lakers roster building strategy of a lot of older players leaves you in a position where these things that could be more minor injuries turn into weeks instead of days, months instead of weeks, and those kind of things. Last thing too, just because I had a little interesting back and forth with a Lakers fan on Twitter, because I said, there's as far as trade wise go, there's no easy way out of this.
No,
because they're out of tradable assets. They just don't have them. It came out of Mason Ginsberg, who covers the Pelicans, had tweeted about because there's obviously an interest there, right? Because the Pelicans have some future picks coming, about just how hard it is for the Lakers to trade picks in a trade, which is true, right? Part of what makes it complicated is there's that one pick that the Pelicans can defer,
the 2024 to 2025 if they want, right?
Exactly. Yep. And now it's not impossible because you can write a trade with language of if this pick conveys in 2020, whatever, you can now trade this pick and whatever it may be. But my point was, taking that out of the picture, there's just not easy to move pieces. And just to kind of say where I'm coming from, Anthony Davis and LeBron aren't getting traded. We know that. Westbrook's not going to be traded. We know that. So that leaves your really only good tradable salaries, and I'm not even saying they would trade these guys, are Talon Horton Tucker and Kendrick Nunn, neither of whom has played a game this year. So that becomes also a complicating factor. And that's only $14.5 million if you put them together in the same trade. So I know I had people jumping in my mentions like, they're the Lakers, they'll go get blah, blah, blah if they want. That's not how this works. People think that, but if you know, I'm just gonna make it up because he's never said it. But if you know, Kevin Durant says I'm done with the Nets and I want to go to the Lakers, they don't have any way to trade for him. It's not a thing that they can do. You can't pile together enough of these salaries, you know. And people are like, well, maybe they could trade like 7 of the minimum contract guys and replace them with
and you have to, and the team getting those would have to have roster spots in order to bring those.
Exactly. So it's just, there's no easy way out of this. The help is not going to come trade wise. I'm not saying they won't make a trade. They may make a couple minor trades where they go get somebody who makes in the 15 million or less range, and it may be even somebody who's really good that can be helpful. But it's just it's not very likely that, you know, it's coming. And the reality is that's not even happening until we're a month from now, because that's when guys will free up and be trade eligible in the middle of December. So that's another thing. So you got to just get through this period right now. And you know,
when you're seeing stuff go wrong, the knee-jerk reaction has been it's been trade. Always. I don't like this guy, trade him. I don't like that guy, trade him, or fire this coach, fire that, you know. And that's fandom, right?
Well, I mean, I have Celtics fans in my mentions daily asking when Marcus Smart's trade restriction is up, because they're ready to ship him out of town, and there's a handful that would like to send Ime Udoka with him 10 games into his head coaching career, because that's what we do.
That's how we roll. It's the era of hot takes. And we talked about this before we came on the air. It's the era of hot takes. And if your team does poorly, you get blasted on the internet about it. And there's no escape, because it's social media. We're all connected. So there's no escaping it. So from the fan perspective, there's a lot more pressure now, I think, and a much more negative reaction now. If your team loses, because it gets thrown here, you have to deal with it, right? Until they play again and they win. And if they keep losing, then it just snowballs and it gets worse and worse. A win is like, hey, they won, but it's almost become secondary of just please don't lose, because of how just toxic it can get out there sometimes. Yeah.
No, and you're spot on, because like we've both said it. There's times when then it's like I gotta step away here for, you know, a day or so just to get my mindset right, because you can only be pulled down so often, right? Where it's, you know, it's and that's not even, it's not a personal. I mean, occasionally it gets personal. I'm sure it gets personal for you on occasion too, but most of the times it's just people being mad, and it's like, all right, if we're gonna be that mad, like, you know, let's you know. I gotta walk away, you know, for a minute here. All right, let's get back into, you know, unfortunately more injury and illness stuff. Michael Porter Jr. So, if you're watching the game over the weekend, he went up for a layup. It was about a few minutes into the game on Saturday against the Rockets. He went up for a fast break layup and just couldn't couldn't jump, did miss the layup, couldn't finish it and everything. Immediately went for the back. I think he only played 7 total minutes in that game. Came out, underwent further testing. He's going to miss Monday's game with low back pain, and they're saying he could miss several games. Now let's think back. He dropped in the draft because of questions about his back, and then he's already had 2 back surgeries in his career. So that is something to keep in mind. And Denver protected themselves to some extent in that contract extension that they gave him, because the finer is partially guaranteed, but it's still the first 4 years are which will start next year. This extension kicks in. There's still 4 years, $133 million. So that's tough. If you're, I'm a Celtics fan who my all-time favorite athlete in the history of any sport had his entire career wrecked because of back injuries. So anytime it's a back injury, I start to get a little nervous.
Well, and with Michael Porter Jr., we talked about this with the contract, that it's a solid deal, but if he continues playing the way that he was, where he had just ridiculous shooting percentages, and we haven't seen that out of him so far this year. Maybe the back is a problem there, but he's got to be, they give enough money to where he's got to be at a certain level. And if he's not able to get back to that, I felt like we saw it a little bit in preseason, and then maybe it started to bother him. So you got to hope that he can turn around, because there is a heck of a player there, right? When he's healthy and when he's got to go.
100%, yeah.
We just unfortunately haven't been able to see that. And I think that, Nuggets fans have got to be feeling a little bit nervous about this. But like a lot of players in the league right now that we've been talking about today, unfortunately, health is just, the best ability is availability, and we'll see if Michael Porter Jr. can get back there.
Well, and this is a Nuggets team that they're committed to going deep into the luxury tax next year. Probably the years after that, when they ideally would get Jokic inked to an extension. That'll be another thing. So it's tough. Speaking of tough right now, Philadelphia. This is getting crazy. So these are the guys who are already out for them: Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Isaiah Joe, Ben Simmons, of course, and Matisse Thybulle, and now Joel Embiid is also going to be out, and they're saying it could be another one of those 10-day minimum COVID.
So what is that? That's 4 starters?
Yep. Well, I don't know. Do we count Simmons?
Okay, so we could take him out. But I'm talking about if they're from last year or whatever.
If everything wasn't all bananas there, it would be. 4 starters out. And here's the crazy part. This team's 8-2. They've played really good basketball, despite. So now they're going to be only down to about. My guess is Grant Riller will come back he's one of their 2-way players, and he'll be brought back from the G League. But they're going to be down to only 10 healthy players. Going into these games for the most part. Now, Andre Drummond has been great for them. For all that, I'm not an Andre Drummond guy. He was not good for the Lakers, so I'm fairly certain you're not a big Andre Drummond guy. On a minimum contract for the Sixers, he's been phenomenal. He's doing everything that he usually does, but in productive ways, versus just kind of chasing rebounds and everything else that he used to do.
I'm an Andre Drummond over DeAndre Jordan guy. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, that's fair. I can get on board with. I can give you a list of about 45 guys that I'd rather have over either one of them. But so now they're going to need Drummond to step up big. Philly is. They're going to need Seth Curry to continue to play like his brother, which he has all year. But and another guy they're going to need to step up, this is just kind of comical. George Niang is playing well for them, and Joel Embiid was asked about it, and Embiid, as he always is, completely honest, said, "Yeah, I thought he sucked before." Just so funny.
Just very
to me,
blunt.
It just made me laugh. And he's like, "But he's actually pretty good." So,
at least it wasn't the other way around, right?
That was good. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I thought he was good. Now he sucks. Yeah, that'd be the last thing.
Yeah, that would be worse.
So yeah. But it's Man, I'd hoped we were going to get past this stuff, but and it sounds like the vast majority of these guys are vaccinated too, so they're catching these. And that story, we'll only touch on it briefly, but the NBA is with the NBPA is amping up the booster shot process for these teams. But with all these guys kind of going in and out of lineups now with COVID. Positive COVID tests, they're going to push everybody to start getting the booster shots. So we'll see.
And
over the weekend, the new New York mayor said, no, we're not changing our rules. That's up to the NBA to figure out how to get Kyrie Irving to play, which is a little disingenuous.
It's not up to the NBA because it's their rules.
Yeah. Because he'd be playing if that was the case, but that closed that loophole because there was some speculation that he might lift some of the restrictions that are going on in New York.
Absolutely. We do have one transaction, but first, pat on the back. We made it through without making an Aaron Rodgers joke, so we made it through that.
Well done to us.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. Let's make it all the way to the end.
Let's do it. So the Raptors.
Hey, I can connect it though.
Oh,
I can connect it.
Oh,
Aaron Rodgers
I got it.
plays in Wisconsin.
There it is.
For the Green Bay Packers. This guy went to Wisconsin. There we go.
How's that? That's pretty good.
Well done, right? Sam Decker of the Toronto Raptors became our first in-season transaction as he was waived by the Raptors. What the Raptors had done was with him and Isak Bonga, they pushed back their guarantee dates to November 6th. Both of them had some guaranteed money prior to that, but the Raptors pushed them both back. Basically, kind of took their training camp competition about 2-3 weeks into the regular season, and they decided that Bonga was the guy for them to keep, and sent Decker to waivers. He has subsequently cleared waivers now today, so he is free agent. My guess is we'll see him pop up in the G League. It will not be for the Raptors, as he got too much guaranteed money from them to then play for Raptors 905 of the G League. But this dipped Toronto under the luxury tax, which they would like to avoid if they can. But my guess is if they really look like a playoff team, there's a trade to be made, and it takes them back over. They'll do that, but that's where it's at now. And then Bonga's contract became fully guaranteed on the 6th, so on Saturday. So he is now fully guaranteed. And so where Toronto is now joins the handful of other teams right around the luxury tax line that have open roster spots.
And Bonga joins another former Laker, my guy Svi Mikhailuk, hanging out in Toronto and getting some stuff done. So I mean, look.
You can go north then if it keeps going south in LA.
That's right. North. That's right. Lakers north. This is what happens when you miss we miss a couple days. Well, we're come out firing with that's right. That's right. We have too much nonsense built up in us over the weekend and everything that it all just comes out here. This is a smart move for the Raptors, because now they can kind of play things by ear, and if it looks like they need to make a move to make a major push, they can do that. If not, they're cool. They're sitting pretty. They're not over the tax line now, and that's where they ideally would like to stay, unless it becomes something that they need to do. So this made a lot of sense for them to do, and it was. I think it's the right decision. I think Bonga is a decent player that's pretty versatile, that still has upside, and so that's probably worth getting a longer look at.
He can also defend on the perimeter more than Decker can, where Decker's more now in today's game is more of a stretch four kind of guy. And with Siakam there, Anunoby, Barnes, Svi is kind of taking that designated shooter role off the bench with them. They just don't need another guy who can step out and play the four position. They've got more than enough guys that can do that. So that's where probably Bonga's ability to guard on the perimeter a little bit more if you need him. And when you're an end of the rotation guy, so Bonga's not a rotation guy. End of the bench is what I meant to say. You have to have some skill that if you're needed to play, you can at least say, all right, this is why we're plugging this guy in. And Decker's, in theory, should be a shooter, but it hasn't come together for him. But my guess is he'll, like I said, pop to the G League, stick around there, try to get back to the league, be on a call-up at some point later this season.
Could very well happen. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I mean, the blur of a weekend has passed us, and now we've knocked off a Monday show. Lot to go over, but I think we got through everything, and yeah, now we're ready to move on to an evening of more basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a weird. So this week's schedule a little weird. There's only the full schedule tonight of games, but then Tuesday is a little empty. Only 3 games on Tuesday. That's kind of the TNT night now, as they're avoiding their Thursdays with the NFL playing. Thursday only has 3 games. This happens every year in the few weeks leading up to Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving Day is always an off day for the NBA. So they start to cram a bunch of games into one day and we'll wiggle them around. And clearly they're trying to go a little lighter on those big NFL nights. I guess they don't really care about going against Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
but
apparently not.
I mean, I couldn't even tell you who's playing tonight. So that's maybe not the bad.
Tonight is the Steelers and the Bears. And I need 0.4 points out of Allen Robinson. I need you to catch 1 ball tonight, Allen Robinson, to help me win in a league. But I am not confident in that at all, because he's not had a great season. But
one pass.
That's it. Just catch a ball.
Right? No,
that's
no
all I need. Just catch 1 ball.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, catch a ball and fall down at the line of scrimmage. All right. Well, let's see. Right. I'll be rooting for you, but I'm
not confident. We'll see. All right. I think we should wrap things up there. Everybody, make sure that you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office show over here on YouTube. Don't forget to ring the notification bell as well. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We certainly appreciate all the support. We'll be back tomorrow with more of everything that's going on in the NBA. Till then, see ya and stay safe.